Begin today the Gemara on Daf Kufay and Beis Amud Aleph, 3 lines down from the top of the Yomud. Amaluhu Rave bar Avshile lahanu kasvishtara aknaisa. Rave bar Avshile would say to those people that are writing a document that is for aknaisa, which means any time it's a acquisition, whether it's a gift or it's a sale. So a person that's writing such a document, and the case is that the document is being written not on the actual day that the acquisition took place, on the day that the sale or the gift took place. At a later date, he wants to now record and write down this information on the document. So what date should you write on this shtar? When you write these documents that are for a sale or for a gift, if you know the actual date when the kinyan or the gift took place, so kisfu. So then write that date, even though it's earlier than the date you're writing it now, but you should write that date. V'iloi, if you don't know what that date is, so then kisfu yom dekamisube, write the date today that you're writing the shtar, and don't write any earlier date with some kind of assumption or approximate when the kinyan was made. So it shouldn't look like that this whole document here is a lie, because then they'll see that this date that you wrote was not true, because you can later maybe find that you weren't even there at that time. So therefore you should write the date of today. Okay, so the Rashbam over here explains that the basis of what the Gemara is saying here is that by a loan, as we learned before in the Gemara, you can't write in a document predated, because if you write it predated, so then you're allowing the lender to collect from properties that he doesn't necessarily have a right to collect from. Now, the halacha by a loan is that the shibud, the lien on the properties, begins when you write the shtar. It doesn't start from the date when you actually borrow the money. It starts from when you actually write the shtar. What's the reason for this? Because you can't allow a lender to confiscate properties of any buyer unless it's written in a shtar, because then the buyer is able to hear about this loan and he's able to investigate the matter. So therefore, now you'll have the right to take it away from him. But if it's not written in a shtar, how's he supposed to know about this loan? So therefore, you can't take it away from him. So when does the shibud of the loan start, that you're able to confiscate from the properties? The date that the shtar is actually written. That's by a loan. But by a sale or by a gift, it's different. First of all, by a gift, you can't confiscate from any buyers. So this whole thing of confiscating from buyers doesn't apply. But even by a sale, when if the property was taken away from you, now you will be able to get reimbursed and even go and take from other buyers to get reimbursed. When does that date start from? From the actual date when the kinyan happened, not from the time when the shtar is written. Because a kinyan is different than a loan. A loan, a person borrows money. If it's not documented with Eidim, then it's quiet, it's private information. People don't publicize the fact that they're borrowing money, and that these are things that are private. But when it comes to a sale, a person buys a house, buys a property, it's not something that he's keeping private. People know and people see the property that he bought. So therefore, even without it being documented, it's something that people know right away from the beginning. And therefore, the shibud and your right to collect from another buyer later on starts from that date. So even though you're writing now the shtar on a later date, if you know the actual date when the kinyan took place, you write that actual date, because that's the accurate date from when the shibud and your right to get reimbursed if your property gets confiscated begins.
So if I'm writing the shtar a week later,
you use the date.
I don't write down that today's date saying that I bought it a week later. You only use.
You can write you can write both dates if you want. You can write today and this date, but you have to write the original date of when it was bought. Amalu Rav l'safrei. Rav would say to the scribes that would write for him documents. And v'chein amalu Rav Huna l'safrei. Rav Huna also wrote to the scribes that wrote for him documents. Ki kamisu b'shili, if you're in the town of Shili, kisvu b'shili. So then write that you're writing this over here in Shili. And even if what the contents of what you're writing was given over to you or took place in Hini. Let's say the kinyan itself took place in Hini, but now the place where you are when you're writing the document is here in Shili, so you write the place Shili. And the same in the reverse, Kikamisa Bihini, if you're in Hini, Kisu Bihini, write the place, location of the document should be Hini, where you are. Now, Afagav de Mesir Lochu, Mili Bishili, even though it was given over to you and what happened took place in Shili. Taisus over here says that Shili and Hini were two cities or towns that were right near each other. So you might think that You don't have to be medayik in that location to such an extent. But nevertheless, it's saying no, you should be medayik.
What's the difference in locations?
You're writing where it took place. You have to know it should be written accurately. Let's say later on someone comes and says, how could you testify that you were here and you saw this sale, but you were with us in a different place? Yeah, when you're writing something, you write according to the place where you are now, and you have to write that date. Some Rishonim actually say it depends what you're writing in the star. Going back to the point that you said before, that if you're writing in the star that the Kinyan took place in Hini, and the Kinyan Taka took place in Hini, so then even though now you're in Shili, but you're writing the Kinyan took place in Hini, so then you have to write where the Kinyan took place. But if you're writing in the star that we today in the town of Shili are writing that about this Kinyan, so then you have to write the place where you're on now. So it depends regarding the location and what part of the star you're writing the location. Omar Rave said, Haiman de Nokit Shtore Bar Meyezuzi. Person that has in his hands a star that it says in it that so-and-so borrowed from him 100 zuz. Now, V'omar, this malva comes and says, this lender comes and says, Shavya Na'alid today, says to the Eidim that let's change this. Instead of having one document that says 100, divide it for me into two documents, b'nei chamshin chamshin. And I want to have two documents, each one will have in it that it says that this guy owes me 50 and 50. Now, why is he saying this? Because what happens now, if this person pays him 50, so then he just hears that star of 50, and he still has another star of 50. It's not going to be any problems. We spoke about this before in the Mishnah. What happens if a person pays half of the loan? Do you tear the star? Do you give a receipt? So over here, the Malva on his own initiative, without the agreement of the borrower, says, just give me a star, change it from 100 to 50-50. So the Gemara says, Loi mashvinalu. We don't allow him to change this without the agreement of the borrower. Such a kind of thing, you're going to have the agreement of the borrower as well. And as the Gemara is going to explain, that it actually works in the reverse as well. If you want to change it from 50-50 to 100, this is something, such a kind of star, whether you have 100 and then you want to change it to 50 and 50, or from 50 and 50 to 100, you're going to have the agreement of both the loiv and the malva. What's the reason for this? My time, what's the reason for this? Because of the Rabbanan Milsa, Chachamim instituted something here, the nichale la malva and nichale la loiva. Because this is something which is both a benefit for the malva and benefit for the loiva. Meaning, having a star that's 100, as opposed to having a star which is 50-50, could be something which is a benefit both for the malva and for the loiva. So if either one of them wants to switch this, you're going to have the agreement of the other party. You can't do this without agreement. Now, where's the benefit of having 100 both for the malva and for the loiva? The malva is happy to have a star that actually has in it 100, because then, if only a part of the loan is paid up, he wants to still have that star of 100 in his possession, and then just give a receipt to the loiva for the part that he paid. According to one opinion we learned before, according to Rabbi Yasi, in such a case, you give a receipt. He'd rather have this setup, that he should still have this star of 100 and give a receipt. Why? Because this is going to pressure the loiva to pay up quicker. Because the loiva knows, I only have a receipt and I have to guard my receipt, not lose my receipt. And he has a document that says that I still owe him 100. So the malva himself would rather actually have the star of 100. But on the other hand, the Gemara says, there's also a certain benefit that the loiva has with the fact that we're keeping the star as 100 and not splitting it into 50 and 50. So like this now, when he pays up half, what happens is, now the malva holds a star in his hands, which is now pogum, meaning there's a blemish in it. Half of it was paid up. That weakens the power of this star. The halacha actually regarding such a kind of star is that if you come to collect a loan with a star that is half paid up, and the loiva says, I paid up already half of the star. So the malva cannot collect the loan with the star unless he swears that what's written in the star is true. This is it's not a shvuah min ha-Torah. It's a shvuah min Rabbanan Chacham instituted. Any star that's pogum, that part of it was paid up, so you're going to have to swear when you want to collect with this. So the loiva would rather have the malva keep this star of 100, in order that if he pays up part, then it would weaken the power of the star. It puts him in a better position that the malva won't be able to collect unless he makes a shvuah. So therefore we see that keeping the star of 100 serves in one way as a benefit for the malva, in another way as a benefit for the loiva. So if any one of them wants to switch this from a star of 100 to a star of 50-50, you're going to have the agreement of both of them to do this.
But what's the Mila Shiyaka of the Parrot for a malva if they're going to make him swear?
Not necessarily they're going to make him swear. If the loiva is going to argue and say, oh no, I paid you up the whole thing, then they're going to make him swear. But if he's not arguing, then they're not going to automatically make him swear. So Narova said based on this, that the same thing will be also in the reverse. If a person, a lender has two documents, he lent someone money twice, once 50 and then again 50, and Avamay comes to the Edom and says, instead, switch it for me to be one star that has 100, that he owes me 100. We're not going to do this for him. Without the agreement of the Leiv and the Malva to switch this, we can't do this. Why? Because of the Rabbana Milsa, the Nichalei Malva, the Nichalei Leiv. Chacham instituted that it has to be something the way it's good for the Leiv and the Malva, and if you want to change it, so then you have to have both of their agreement. So over here, in this case, there is a certain benefit for the Malva to have a star, two stars that is, 150 and another 50, so that when he gets paid up half, so then the other half of the star that he has is a full star. There's no blemish in it. It wasn't partially paid up because that 50 was not paid up at all. So if there's an argument about this, he won't have to swear. And on the other hand, and the loive wants that there should be 50 and 50. So now if he pays up half, he won't have so much pressure to pay up the other half because he knows that the malva only has a star of 50, does not have a star of 100. So it's over here, it's in the reverse, but it's the same point that this star has the benefit for the loive and the malva either way, whether it's 100 or 50 and 50. So you can't switch it without both of their agreement. Omer Ravashi, a similar thing. Ravashi said, bar a lender that has a star that says that so-and-so owes him 100 zuz. Now, the malva comes along without the leiva being here, without the leiva's agreement. The malva comes and says, Shavinun li chad bar chamshin. Change for me this star and give me a star that says that he only owes me 50. And the malva comes and says, you know why? Because he paid me up already 50. He's like, it comes forward like a very honest person. He already paid me 50. So now change me the star for only 50. But the leiva is not here. So we don't do this for him. We can't do this for him. My time, why not? Because we're afraid that this is really he's really coming to steal money. He's a Ramai. Because Amrina, we say it's possible as follows. Hi, Mifra Pare. That really what happened was this loan is paid up completely. And what happened when the loan was paid up, the borrower said to the lender, give me back the document of the loan because I'm paying you. And now this lender said, I lost it. And what did he do? Because of letavra. Instead, he wrote a receipt for the borrower that he paid up the loan. But now what's going to happen? He wrote him this receipt, and now this lender came and asked the Edim, write me instead now a star that he only owes me 50 because he only paid me 50. But now mapik lehai, and then he's going to take out this new document that says that he owes him 50, and he's going to come and claim, this is a new loan. Now you borrowed me $50. So we can't switch that without having the loiva here to clarify what happened over here. Did he pay him? Did he not pay him? The whole thing. This is sort of an unrelated Indian here that falls into this Pedic. In the Rishonim, there's a discussion how this comes in here. Talks over here about two brothers. One is poor, one is rich, and regarding how they manage the inheritance. So some say it's connected to what we spoke about before regarding a borrower and a lender. When he pays up, who loses out, who gains? Do you write a new document? Do you write a receipt? So similar over here, it's talking about brothers that they're trying to figure out how they manage this property and who will gain, who will lose out of it. That's the connection here. So sagt der Heilige Mishnah, Shnei Achim, two brothers. Echad ani ve'echad asher. One is poor and one is rich. V'niach len aviyem merchatz. The father left them in the inheritance a bathhouse and a ubeis abad, an olive press. So what is this meant to be used for? So you follow the status of what it was used for when the father was alive. Asan l'schar, then aschar le'emtza. If the father, when he was alive, so what he was used this for as a rental, for people to earn money. So then, even now, between the rich and poor brother, it's also used for a rental, and then they share the income, the profits. Asan la'atzmai, but if when the father was alive, this was a bathhouse or an olive press that was used privately, it wasn't a rental. So now, what happens after the father dies? So the rich brother can say to the poor brother, that if you want to use this thing, the bathhouse or the olive press, it could only be used privately. You don't have enough use for it, so then you should have slaves that you employ. And then if it's your slaves that you're employing privately, then they can use the bathhouse. Or if you want to use the olive press, buy olives, and and come and you can use the olive press privately. So in such a case, it comes out that the rich brother is going to gain because he has a bunch of slaves and he has a lot of olives, then therefore he's going to have use out of this. But for the poor brother, he's going to be stuck. He doesn't have this option of use. He doesn't have all these slaves. He doesn't have olives. So he's going to lose out. But it goes by the status the way it was when the father was alive. The Rashbam brings up over here something from the beginning of the Masechta, that there it said that there's a concept called Goy da Yagud, that in such a case, the poor brother could say to the rich brother, buy me out, and let's split this, half. And I'll take my part and you'll take your part. But the Rashbam said, the Gemara before says that you can't do such a thing unless the poor brother is also ready to buy out as well. You can't say to the rich brother, you buy me out completely and then we'll split the money. Yeah, it goes both ways. If the poor brother is ready to pay as well and buy the rich brother out, then he can, that option is an option. But over here he's poor, he doesn't have that option, so he's going to be stuck. He's not going to have any use out of it. But there are other Rishonim that say that what you could do over here is, if the poor brother doesn't want to remain stuck, is that the poor brother can say, we're going to split the use of this bathhouse or olive press one day of the week for me, one day of the week for you. Your day of the week, it'll be private. But my day, I'm going to rent it out to other people. So some Rishonim say that that's an arrangement that they could do. Okay, now going back to the subject over here of this Perek, which is discussing shtaris, the documents and so on. Sagt the Mishnah, Shnaim shoye birachas. Two people living in the same city. Shem echad Yosef ben Shimon. One person, his name is Yosef ben Shimon, Shem acher. And this other person is Yosef ben Shimon, has the same name. So this is a problem. This could be a big problem when you have a document that has this name in it. So in such a case, these two individuals, one cannot take out a document of a loan to say that you owe me money. And here the Rashbam says the reason for this is because he can say, you're taking out a star that says in it that I, Yosef ben Shimon, owe you money. What really happens is that you, Yosef ben Shimon, owed me the money. And I paid you up the loan and you gave me back that star. Or I gave you back that star rather. And now you're using it against me. But really originally, you were the one that owed me the money. Okay, so that's the reason the Rashbam here says. The Gemara later on will say a different reason. Now, if nobody else can come and take out a star that says, Yosef ben Shimon owes me money, and Yosef ben Shimon is you. Because he could always say, Yosef ben Shimon is not me, it's the other Yosef ben Shimon. Unless you have clear Eidim that can come and testify that it's this Yosef ben Shimon. Another case, if a person finds amongst his documents, he finds a receipt or he finds a document that says that the Yosef ben Shimon's star is paid up. So I say that shtar is shnei and parua, that both of them, any loan for both of these Yosef and Shimons is considered to be paid up. Okay, this is something the Gemara is going to explain what this means, and we'll see in the Gemara about this. And then actually it's not, in the next plot the Gemara will explain this. Okay, so now what do you do in such a case? Keitzad yasu, two people with the same name. So how do they write a proper shtar that we should identify who it is? Yishaleshu, so you write it the third generation. You write Yosef ben Shimon ben Yaakov, or Yosef ben Shimon ben Naftali. If their grandfather has the same name as well, so then yichtavu siman, you write some indicating features about the person, the short one, the tall one, the dark one, the light one. If they both look the same, there's no really identifying features you can write about them, then yichtavu kayin, you write something else. You write Yosef ben Shimon HaKayin or Yisrael, whatever it is. You write something else that it should be clear who's who. Okay, so the Gemara starts with a story and with a psak din regarding a certain story here, and this will come back here to the Mishnah. So ahu shtare, the nofik lebeidina de Ravuna, there was a star that a lender brought into the Bezdin of Rav Huna. Now what star did he have in his hands? It said in it, Ani Pliny bar Pliny Lavisi Mana Mimcha. It said in the star the name of a person that so and so borrowed money Mimcha from you. Now, it did not say from who we borrowed the money. It just said Mimcha, from you. But the thing is, this person that's holding the star says, who's the Mimcha? It was me. We were sitting down. I lent him money, and he wrote me a document that I, so-and-so, borrowed money from you, and he didn't bother writing the name, and he gave me the star. So I'm the lender. That's what he's claiming. The question is, Mimcha, without a name, could we rely on the fact that it's in his hands, and therefore it's his, or maybe not? So Omer Ravuna says, no, we can't rely on this. Mimcha, if you're holding a star that says that I borrowed money from you and it's in your hands, then afilu miresh galusav, afilu mishver malka. So then that could mean that the money was borrowed from someone else. It could have been borrowed from the head of the galos or from shver malka, from the king. How do we know Mimcha is you? So what could have happened, according to the Rashbam's pshat in the Gemara, other Rishonim disagree, but the Rashbam's pshat in the Gemara is that what concerned happened over here is that the star belonged to someone else and it fell, you found it, and now you're saying, Mimcha is me. So therefore you can't collect with the star. Now Tosfos actually, other Rishonim say that the pshat in the Gemara here actually is in the reverse. If you're holding a star in your hands and it says Mimcha, because you're holding it in your hands, we're not chayshish that it fell out of anybody else's hands, and the star is yours. And what the Gemara is saying with these words, afilim reish galusa, afilim mishvar malka, means that the word mimcha could be referring to even the reish galusa. If the reish galusa is holding it in his hands, then mimcha means the reish galusa. Shvar malka, even though these are very honorable people, but therefore, nevertheless, mimcha means that the one holding it in his hands could collect with it. Complete opposite pshat. Yeah, opposite pshat. Yeah, there are other. There's a number of pshatim here in this Gemara. Okay, let's go along with the Rashbam's pshat here in the Gemara. So now Amalei Rav Chisda l'Rabbe. Rav Chisda said to Rabbe that go out and analyze this matter. Like what is the halach in such a case? Could you use it? Is mimcha reliable to collect with it or not? Because the lo'orta in the evening or tomorrow, bayal Rav Huna minach. Rav Huna is going to ask you about this, so you should know what to answer. So Nafak, Rabba went out and docked the Ashkach, and he looked and he found a braisa that he wanted to base on it, what the halacha would be in this case. The Tanya, we learned in a braisa, get sheyesh al avedim, a get that has signatures of avedim on it, ve'im baizman, and it doesn't have a date on it. Now, as we learned in the Gemara in Gittin, one of the takanas of Chachamim is that a get must have a date in it. When I tell you a get does not need a date, but the Chachamim instituted different reasons that it must have a date in it. So you found this get, it doesn't have a date on it. Abishal says, even without a date, but imkosov boy, if it's written in it, gerashtia hayoim, that I divorced her today, kosher. Just the word hayoim, even though it's not a specific date, but if it says hayoim in it, that's like a date, and therefore it'll be kosher. So what do we see from this? Alma, so I see, hayoim means hahu yoime denafik be mashma. Hayoim means that day when this person has this get, the woman has the get in its hands, so she's holding the get, and the get says that I was divorced today. So today is a date. Today means that I was divorced today. And we're not going to say maybe it was a different day. No, it's today. And we can rely on that it's a good divorce. So if so, Hanami, here as well, I should say the same thing, that when it says Mimcha, person holds in a star, and it says in it that I borrowed the money from you. Who's the from you? Even though it doesn't say, it means that person that's holding it in his hands. And therefore he could collect with this. That's the comparison he wanted to make. So Amalei Abaye responds to this and says it's not a comparison at all. Because Vidilme Abishol Rabbi Lazar Svirele. Maybe regarding a get, Abishol holds like the opinion of Rabbi Lazar. What does Rabbi Lazar hold about a get? When it comes to a get, you don't even need any signatures in the get at all. And therefore really you don't have to write a date in a get either. Because the Amar, Rabbi Lazar says, Eidei Mesira Karti. Who are the Eidim that make the get a kosher get? The Eidim that are there when the husband gives the get to the wife. And therefore, you don't really need a date in the get at all. So the Rashbam over here says that according to him, you don't need a date in the get. So why does it have to say hayayim? The reason why it has to say hayayim is because if it's not going to say today, so then the husband can say, the Eidim saw that I gave the get to my wife, but I didn't give it to her to be divorced now. I gave it to her that she should hold on to it and she'll be divorced in a year from now. That's what he's going to say. So you have to write hayayim, that it means that the divorce is today. That's the Rashbam's shot. Other Rishonim disagree, but really, the reason why the get is kosher is because of the Eidei Mesira. That's the main kashrus of the get. But otherwise, if we would hold like Rab Meir, then you would need a specific date on the get. But over here, regarding a star that you're holding in your hands, and it says Mimcha, that it's yours. Leichesh l'nefila, we can still be concerned that it fell out from someone else's hands and you have it in your hands. What's the comparison? You can't really learn out at all from that braisa. Over here, it's a whole different concern that maybe it fell out from someone else's hands. Okay, I mean the answer to the Gemara here is very simple. Really, I mean, this point of nefila, if the whole concern is about nefila, there's really no comparison to the date and hayayim. The Rishonim, the Ramban asks under Rashbam's pshat over here in the Gemara that it's hard to understand even how the Gemara even wanted to compare to this case of hayayim to what we're talking about over here. This is the Rashbam's pshat. So Amalei. So now the Gemara says, so Rabba, when he was asked this question, Rabba answered and said, if that's why you're saying Mimcha cannot be relied upon, I can't collect the shtar that just says I borrowed money from you because maybe the you is someone else and it fell out of someone else's hands. No, if you're holding a shtar in your hands, we're not chayshish that it fell from someone else and you picked it up. Why not? What's the source of this? And now the Gemara brings from our Mishnah. From where do we see that we're not concerned that the shtar fell out of someone's hands? Because it said in our Mishnah, two people in the same city, and they both have the same name, Yosef ben Shimon. One cannot take out a document and say that you owe me money, because it could be the reverse. Maybe he owes him money. So now what do we understand from the Mishnah though? The Mishnah goes on to say, and no one in the city can come and take out a document and say that any of these two people owe the money, because maybe it could be the other person. But now we understand from the Mishnah, but any of these two people, Yosef and Shimon, that have a document with a loan, they can take out a shtar to collect money from someone else. And that person can't say, I borrowed money, but not from you. I borrowed money from someone else. Why can't he say that? So the question is, why wouldn't we be concerned and say, even though it says the name Yosef ben Shimon, but maybe really the money was borrowed by the other Yosef ben Shimon and the document was dropped, and now this Yosef ben Shimon picked it up and he's collecting with it. So what do we see from here? We see clearly from the Mishnah that we're not concerned that the shtar fell out of one person by the name of Yosef ben Shimon and was picked up by the other person by the name of Yosef ben Shimon, and therefore you as a lender with this shtar and the name Yosef ben Shimon could collect the money with it. That's Rabba's proof that once you're holding a shtar in your hands, we're not chayshish that it fell out from someone else. Now, but Abaye disagrees with this. Abaye says, in the case of the Mishnah here, where the only option of what could have happened over here is that it fell out of the hands of one Yosef ben Shimon and now the other Yosef ben Shimon picked it up. So punkt that it should happen, that this Yosef ben Shimon lost it, and punkt you found it, that's something we're not chayshish for. And another svara that Rashbam Avir brings from Rabbeinu Chananel, if it actually fell out of the hands of we know who's the other person that would have fell out from. It's from the other person with the same name, Yosef ben Shimon. Why is that other person not speaking up? Why wouldn't he protest about this? So the fact that the other person is not saying anything about this, so we know that it didn't fall out of his hands, and you're holding the shtar in your hands, it's yours. But if you're holding a shtar in your hands, it has no name at all. It just says, I borrowed money from you. So who's the you? It could have fallen out from anybody in the world. For such a thing, we still should be chayshish for. That's Abaye's argument. I think one is going to continue. We'll stop over there.